Hey guys, how are you doing? I'm Kent Tilley, and today I want to talk to you about your LIRA. So I want to talk to you about, should you do the things you can to unlock it, and can you do the things to unlock it? Because every situation in every province is way different. I'm going to try and keep this list as extensive as possible. However, I didn't go into detail about the exact nature of each structure because every province is a little bit different. So if you come into this case and you're in if you're in New Brunswick, then it's going to be different than if you're in Manitoba. If you're in Ontario, it's going to be different than BC. So you actually have to look at the details of your situation to know if you can actually do this. So what you need to know first is, what is a LIRA? Anytime that you've ever worked for a company that either had a defined benefit pension plan or a defined contribution plan, and then you no longer were employed at that company, you either had to move your defined contribution pension plan into a LIRA, or you had the choice to move your defined benefit plan into a LIRA or keep it in the plan. Now, the LIRA is a locked-in retirement account. It works very similar to an RSP, except that you cannot actually add to it, and you can't take out whenever you want like an RSP, because what it's supposed to do is keep that money in there and treat it like a pension. It's supposed to start giving you an income at retirement. However, there is some flexibility with these accounts, and more so in some provinces than others. So it matters where you earned that money, not where you live. So, if you worked in Alberta, you had a job in Alberta, and then you moved to another province, well, your LIRA jurisdiction is still Alberta. It falls under the Alberta rules. There are also federal LIRAs. They're a lot less common. Somebody who may be working for the military or the post office or something will fall under federal jurisdiction, but it's a lot less common than most employers fall under the provincial pension guidelines. So I'm going to go through the list in order of the provinces. Some are way better than the others. And first, I'm going to talk to you about whatever the 5 things that you're allowed to do to unlock this money. So one, there's like a non-residence exemption where you can unlock your LIRA. Basically, generally, this is always if you have been out of Canada for 2 years or more, you can access the money in your LIRA. Then you're going to have to pay tax based on where you live, pulling that money out. In some provinces, there is like an unlocking factor of 50%, 25%, or even 100% in some cases. So I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get to Alberta. There's a financial hardship component. So if you can prove that, you're really struggling to pay bills, some other things, you fall under a certain income threshold, you don't have enough assets, you meet the requirements, then you might be able to access the funds in your LIRA. So this is different province by province, and depending on, YMP of the year, how much is in your LIRA, a whole bunch of other things. Shortened life expectancy can come into play. If you can get a physician to tell the government that you're dying, basically, then you can access the money in your LIRA. And lastly, there's small amounts that you can access. So if it falls under a certain percentage of YMPE, which is the yearly maximum pensionable earnings, then you should be able to just take that money out, because they're like, this pension's only going to pay you $50 a month for the rest of your life. We'll give you your $9,000 basically. You have to pay tax on it when it comes out, of course. But so if those are the cases, then some provinces allow for all of these, some allow for none, some allow for a few of them. So I'm going to go through and we'll talk about it. We'll put a list up. Federally, the only option that I saw, and I could be wrong about some of these, and if I am, please correct me in the comments, but don't tell me I'm an idiot. I was just looking through and trying to find all the information. If you want to correct me, that's great. I love it. Because I'm not saying that this is the most comprehensive list, because that would take me 3 hours to do this video. I don't talk very fast. Federally, there's the non-residence exemption. So if you're not in Canada for 2 years, you can get your federal LIRA out of there. BC, the only thing that they allow for is the financial hardship thing. So BC doesn't care or want you to get your LIRA. They say, you know what? Except if you're under financial duress, then maybe we'll allow you to get your LIRA. Not if you're dying, not anything else. They don't care about you that way at all. Alberta and Ontario are some of the best, and Alberta and Ontario are basically identical. So we'll just won't go through Alberta and Ontario, we'll just combine them. So the non-residence one works in Alberta. Now you have the 50% unlocking option in Alberta. So what that means is if you decide to convert your LIRA to a LIF, which is a lifetime income fund, then that has converted it into generating that income. So now you're drawing out on a monthly or annual basis in the minimum or maximum amounts that are allowable. But at that time, when you make that conversion, you are allowed to unlock 50% of it and move it over into your RSP. You do not need room in your RSP to move that amount over, because the LIRA and the RSP was generated on the same amount of room. So anytime you were putting into a pension plan, you'd see your pension adjustment on your notice of assessment, because that was taking up some of your RSP room. So you don't need to worry about the RSP room. You can just unlock 50% of it and move it into there if you so choose. And I've been talking about this a lot lately. It's been coming up quite a bit in a lot of plans. And I really can't think of any reason why you wouldn't do this, because it's allowing for more flexibility of the amount of income that you can take out of your RSP rather than taking out of your LIF. So you might be able to delay that portion a little bit longer or take out heavier in your 60s. I don't really know of a reason why you wouldn't do this, except for the one reason I can think of is if you're absolutely terrible with money, and let's say you had $400,000 in your LIRA, you needed that to retire, you unlock 50% into your RSP, and then you're like, I've got access to 200 grand and I'm going to take this all right now. I'm going to pay 45% in tax to get it out. I'm going to be left with basically nothing. And now my retirement's totally screwed. So if you're really bad with money and you're going to take that and blow it, maybe that's the only reason that I wouldn't do this. Otherwise, I love the flexibility of both, as long as you're ready to take your LIF income. Financial hardship in Alberta and Ontario, shortened life expectancy, and small amounts. You have to look up the details, and they're going to change every single year. So this is, nearing the end of 2023. These numbers change every year with, new tax brackets and new YMP and everything and inflation. Saskatchewan, exact same as BC, only financial hardship. Manitoba is actually probably the best, because it has all of the above of Alberta and Ontario, but it also has the 50% unlocking after 55 and potential of 100% unlocking after 65. Now, what I don't know, because nobody from Manitoba ever contacts us, and if they do now, we just send him to Chad because he is in Manitoba, so I haven't dealt with anybody really in Manitoba on this, is exactly how that works. Can you unlock 50 at 55 and then unlock 100 at 65? I'm not sure. So I apologize for that. Quebec, over 65, you can unlock 100% of it if it's less than 40% of YMP that's in there. So if YMP is 70,000 and your LIRA is less than 40% of that, then you can unlock 100% of it. Otherwise, you can't unlock it. lowered life expectancy, you can unlock it, and a non-residence. Nova Scotia, small amounts over 65, less than 50% of YMPE, so it's only if you're over 65. If your life expectancy is less than 2 years, then you can unlock it. Non-resident and financial hardship. Newfoundland and Labrador, shortened life expectancy, small balance, non-residence, and financial hardship. No unlocking capability there. New Brunswick has a reduced life expectancy option, non-resident, 25% of the value can be unlocked, so it's not 50 in this case, it's 25%, or 3 times the annual amount, whichever is smaller, so it's not a huge amount, and then the small balance. And for some reason, PEI does not have LIRAs. I didn't know this, but they do not have LIRAs for some reason, so that seems kind of strange. But anyway, that's why it's really hard to do a video on this, because there's 900 different ways, and the territories fall under federal jurisdiction. So if your pension is there, then it's under the federal guidelines. Other than that, you know, I think if you can and you're ready to, I would unlock what you can. If you are suffering from financial hardship or shortened life expectancy, or you've moved out of the country, then I would look to unlock it. You just need to look into the actual rules and start going through the application process with the government forms and the forms with your financial institution. So, I know that's a lot. I hope you learned something. Thank you again for watching, and good luck out there. Cheers.